a playlist original.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your host, Gaius and Jackson. A totally, completely all news
Yes,
episode.
which is
We haven't
like
done
first time
in a
since like
while.
what? Yeah, August, September, maybe. And also our last
Feels like
episode of November, like 2023 has pretty much come and gone. I don't know about you, but it's absolutely flown by. I say that every year, but this year more than ever. So
Yeah, it went by way. I mean, way too fast. Yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's
exactly.
like
We got
sometimes
one
I
more
wish
month of movies.
like pump the brakes just a little bit.
Mhm.
But yeah, we haven't had we've of course fit in news into other little episodes, but with the strikes that were happening, there wasn't a lot of news, and now
Right.
they're over,
And
and
now
now
we're back.
there's now we're back with plenty of news. Some of it you've definitely heard of in the last week. So good for us as far as stuff to talk about, but not good for a lot of people involved in certain stories. So we'll see.
Some stuff, yeah. Some stuff really
Some stuff.
was relegated to a day, and I couldn't get away from like one of these stories we're going to be covering, and I haven't heard any developments since then. But
and it just evolved throughout the entire day.
Exactly. Yes.
And then I guess it hit like a fever pitch the next morning when like other person dropped out.
Which we'll
we'll get to that. But since we have time, because there's just news and we're not doing anniversary or anything, we can talk about stuff that we've been watching lately. I have been lucky enough to get a lot of for your consideration discs and
that's right,
digital
not
screeners to watch. You know what? I'm trying my best to get the podcast like listed as an outlet. So maybe one day you'll be able to get.
Imagine that would be pretty cool.
Because
I'm completely teasing. I think that's awesome that you get all that stuff. That is super, super cool.
Well, because some podcasts they do consider some of them outlets depending on how they break down news and review movies. So
okay, cool.
It's one thing I'm looking into. So hopefully you'll be able to.
Knock on wood. That would be awesome. Because that
some
4K
of these too.
Oppenheimer you got is insane. I cannot wait to get my hands on that movie. It's as of right now. I know that soon enough we'll be covering and breaking down our best of the year lists and where things stand. Having just seen Napoleon this weekend, Oppenheimer is still a front runner for myself. Very excited for what's in stake for that movie in the future.
There's a lot of people that are still championing it for Best Picture, not just a nomination but a win. Like I have a few people,
a nom for sure.
I have a few people I know that I follow that are like rooting for it, and there's other people. I guess any movie, even if it's a good movie, there's always going to be like that little discourse of like, yeah, it doesn't deserve the win. Like they're all like, you have people that like are rooting for like Killers of the Flower Moon,
which I thought maybe I would be, but I'm not. I loved it, but.
And then we got people rooting for Barbie. There's that.
It's rare that it'll be unanimous. I'm sure that never happens.
I know.
So.
And by the way, someone posted today, and I won't say who they are, but like they were just like, Barbie made $1.4 billion. It got really good reviews. Even before it opened, people were talking about it for Oscars because they were like, it's not just a typical like run of the mill like adaptation of a line of toys. It was actually really smart,
right?
And subversive and stuff. But like this one guy I read, he had his 4-year consideration disc from that particular film, and at the top of it says like 4-year consideration including Best Picture, and then he like posted it and was like in their dreams or something like that, just being really rude about it. And everyone was like, dude, you can say a lot, it may not win, but for you to think that it's not going to get a Best Picture nomination unless something crazy stupid happens,
right?
It probably is. Like,
considering that there's up to 10, like I'd say that that adds a lot of room for that movie for sure.
Yeah, and there's a lot, and because of that, you can do up to 10. There's a lot of will these movies make it in? Will they not? Like I know there's some with my watches that I will go over today. Like a part of me is I'll mention like whether or not they'll sneak in.
Okay. Cool.
But like it just depends on how many they do. Like I kind of wish they were consistent with the number of nominations, especially because they can do up to 10, but they don't have to.
Right, exactly. You might get 7, you might get 6, you might get 9.
I
like that ambiguity. I like not really knowing what to expect. I would like a tighter race, actually. Like I don't think we need 10's nice if it's a really strong year. Where I stand right now, what I've seen, and there will still be some, like including some that you'll talk about here that I need to see still. I don't know that I have a surefire 10 predicted nominees. Like I think 6 to 7 would be tight. Like I guess we'll see, but
Yeah,
I'd like a tighter race this year. I don't know about you.
But it also seems like a really good award season.
True.
I mean,
yes.
there are a lot of movies that people are getting behind. Like, you have your Oppenheimers, you got your Barbies, you got your Killers of the Flower Moon.
Mm-hmm.
You got some people have already seen Poor Things that they said that was really, really good with
right.
Emma Stone.
Saltburn might get some love.
Saltburn might get some love. There are people that are really championing A24's The Iron Claw with Zac Efron. Is getting a lot of positive buzz, and I have it. I need to watch it.
Right, I can't wait for that.
And there, everyone talks about like that kind of sneaky Best Actor nomination that can get in, and a lot of people are thinking Zac Efron could be that guy for that movie.
Could you imagine? That would be incredible.
Which is crazy because he's been trying for a really long time to like. And I think he proved it a long time ago that he actually can act. I think, but
once he stepped out of his Disney shadow, yeah,
I think considering how he started, in High School Musical, and he's a good-looking guy, so it's always like, oh, like you're just a pretty face. So it took a while for him, I think, to be taken seriously, and he did comedies for a little bit because he is funny. Like I love Neighbors. I think he's hilarious.
He's got good comedic timing. I'll give him that.
Yeah. But I remember I didn't love the movie, but I still thought he was good in that Ted Bundy movie they did for Netflix. But I thought he was pretty good in that.
That movie fell flat for me too. I don't blame him for it. I didn't really care about any aspect of that movie, but I don't blame him and his performance. I think it was just like the script and some other parts of it. But I agree with you that he's got the chops. The trailer for the Iron Claw really impressed me, and I'm really excited for that. I actually didn't bother to see if it was a 2023 release. I was thinking maybe it was early 2024, so that's great that it might be in the
Christmas.
This year.
I think Christmas Day is when it comes out at 24. So that's when you'll be able to see it. I'm gonna fit in time to watch. I have a lot to watch.
You and me both.
I mean, because I could not watch everything and still like vote for people that don't know. I'm part of the Hollywood Creative Alliance, which used to be the Hollywood Critics Association, but they wanted it to be more like inclusive to like influencers and other stuff like that, so it wasn't just like because the movie critic thing is changing a lot. It's not just writers, it's people who have YouTube channels and podcasts and stuff like that, so they're trying to make it more of a more inclusive experience. But since becoming a part of that, I've been very lucky to get all these movies and I get to vote for our Critics' Choice Awards, and I'm going to try to watch everything so I can actually vote with a and clear head, like at least I tried to watch as much as I could.
Easier said than done for sure. It's no small feat, but that's
and
awesome.
You think because you have like time and then you still have work, and then you want your free time. And
then want to watch what you want to watch too. Right?
You want to watch what you want to watch because sometimes it's not fun to just watch something you're forced to watch. But it's cool. Like I didn't really think you would. I never knew that you get for your consideration stuff for almost every movie. Like I got a digital screener for Transformers Rise of the Beast only because I thought just for visual stuff, which I thought would make sense because it is a very special effects heavy movie. But in the email notes, it's like also like for your consideration Best Actor and for your consideration Best Director, and I was like, oh, so like every movie, even Transformers, wants you to consider them for major awards, which is interesting. I got one for Dead Reckoning, for probably more just for the effects and like sequences like that. But they're So every I was told by someone else as a part of this, he was like every movie, even if it's probably like a bad one, in some shape or form has a for-year consideration like campaign. It's just a matter of how hard the studio will push it.
Right.
And if they kind of feel like, oh, like we don't have a shot, they won't push it. But yeah, if they think they can sneak in, even the most silly of movies will vie for awards. So there you go.
100%. Don't blame them. But on that note, since Dallas Buyers Club last week, what have you had the chance to see?
I told you right away. I saw Saltburn finally. Yes. I was going to see this. I was going to see this in theaters. So I was very happy to wake up to find a digital screener in my email because I was like, oh, I mean, if I could watch it from the comfort, especially because it's not like not saying that you shouldn't see it theatrically. It's not like it's a like big like you have to see it on the big screen kind of thing. Even though I am jealous of some of the people's reactions from their screenings of it, because they said with the right crowd, it was definitely like Gatsby kind of movie where everyone's
Yeah.
like, "Whoa!" Like
I'll be seeing it in the
reacting.
theatrical crowd tomorrow, or I guess by the time this episode airs, it'll have been a couple days previous. But as of recording, I'm seeing it tomorrow, and I'm very excited based on what you've had to say too, and what to prepare for. I'm very excited for that watch. So I'm really interested in what you had to say about it.
I really, I would just say that I got it. I got the email actually late the night before, and I was like, okay, I can watch it now, but I'm kind of tired. I don't want to like fall asleep. So I decided to watch it first thing the next morning, and it's not like a typical like this is a good thing to start your day with kind of movie. Okay. But I wasn't ready for it, is all I could say. I was not ready for everything it threw at me. It's wonderfully weird. It's depraved. It's beautiful looking. It's a very well-directed movie. Cinematography is great. The acting is great. It's completely all about excess and all that stuff. And really interesting character study as well. It's darkly funny, but then also has moments when it's not. I kind of like I was wondering if it gets like Golden Globe nominations or something, like would they push it as a drama or a musical or comedy? Right. I think it leans in the same way that May December does, and I'll talk about that one later. That one toes the line between dark humor and a drama. Okay. I kind of think Saltburn will go, and they'll probably have better shots at the Golden Globes if it goes as a comedy.
I was thinking you'd say that, yeah.
But I thought it was really good. I think I'm blanking on her name. Is it Emerald Fennell? Fennell. She's two for two for me now because I loved Promising Young Woman. That was one of my favorite movies of the year. The year it came out. I'm top 5ing Saltburn so far.
Okay, for the year.
So for the year, yeah. Fantastic. So far, we'll see if anything changes. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I mentioned offline, like I've seen that there's some discourse a little bit for it now, and like the main issue is that some people think it's like an attack on the middle class, like as if the middle class is like bad. And that's what she's trying to say, and especially because apparently she comes in real life. They said that she comes from money, and she wouldn't know, that kind of stuff. But I didn't view it as an attack on the middle class. I thought it was just a really interesting character study about someone who is completely narcissistic and a sociopath, and that is how you should look at it. Not as if this person who happens to be middle class and wants so bad to be a part of this more affluent society and be involved with these more affluent groups of people is an attack on that. I didn't see it that way. I just saw it as like, this is just about someone that is pretty fucked up. That's how I kind of
I've heard it compared to The Talented Mr. Ripley, which is like this generation's version of that, which I have not seen, but I'm really, that's been on my list for a long time.
Great movie.
Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, great movie and good comparison. It's that kind of that same comparing the two characters, like presumably more like meek on the surface, and they just want to be included. They just want friends, and, and then they both have these male figures who are like the object of either their, however you want to look at it, their obsession, infatuation. It really is. I mean, you have to answer yourself what that attraction is for Ollie, who's played by Barry the Keoghan. I'm gonna fuck up.
Our boy Barry for sure.
Our boy Barry, who is great in the movie. I think it's open interpretation of like what that interaction is between his character Ollie and Felix, who's played by Jacob Elordi, who's also very good in it. And I haven't seen Priscilla yet. I haven't seen Priscilla yet. And I know we never talked about it on here. You know, he made comments about his Kissing Booth movies and like them not being
that's right.
Not being necessarily proud of them or like something he really wanted to make. I don't know how I feel about voicing that publicly, but I can get why, between this movie and Priscilla, I guess, and really great work on Euphoria. I think he just wants to do stuff that he's proud of, and there's nothing wrong with that. And he is having a really great year, and
breakout year for him, I'd say for sure,
and really good performances, because like this is a movie that kind of plays with the whole like, it is. There are a lot of beautiful, good-looking people in it, and it does play with that whole like, the issue of like, the female gaze and male gaze. Like you're supposed to like kind of they're attractive people, so that's part of the appeal, I guess, in watching it, is that you're watching these there are a lot of people that talk about shows and movies where, it's rich people behaving badly, like that kind of thing. That is fascinating for some people to watch, this other part of the world, like also do really messy, bad things sometimes. But I thought she had a lot more to say than that. It happens to look great. And that is a part of the appeal, is like making it look like something that you would want, a life that you would want to live,
right.
Being in that kind of environment. So that is just part of the appeal, but there's more to it than that. I think people should look at it more than her trying to show off pretty shiny things. And I don't think that's what it was. The screenplay is amazing. Rosamund Pike is in this too, and she has some great needle drop lines that are just hilarious. Like, she's like absolutely hilarious. I think she enters the movie maybe like an hour or so into it, maybe less than that.
Okay.
And she steals so many of her scenes. Like, she's absolutely hilarious.
Good. I feel like she's kind of like slept on as an actress, but like the odd time she'll poke her head into a movie, she's definitely a scene stealer.
Yeah, and I was cracking up like first thing in the morning, like once she entered and like it's funny before that, but it's just the delivery, and then the lines are just like pitch perfect great. Like I think that it can definitely, it depends on the crowd, like how crowded the field is, but depending on how many people seeking like to original screenplay, it has a shot, I think.
Okay.
And
fantastic.
I think she might have more of a shot because she's won before. If she went for Promising Young Woman for that script, so maybe they'll be like, hey, like, give her a nod for that as well. I'm on the fix about Picture. I guess it depends on how many they choose, because it's so divisive. But I don't know how divisive it is with like mainstream critics so far, even though I'm seeing a little bit of it now.
The Files movie is like what I'm guessing. So I feel like people in the industry are going to enjoy it.
Yeah. And depending on how crowded the actor field is, I think our boy Barry can get it in too. He's really good.
Which would be back-to-back years for him with a nom, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's crazy good. I think the supporting actor field is like, because there's another guy, another movie I watched that I think could make it in. I don't think Jacob Elordi makes it in that, but this is more of a movie that's like, it's cool that you're a part of it. You're showing them what you can do as an actor.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if a year or two from now that he is in something even better than this as an actor, and he gets that kind of recognition. Because it seems like that's what new. It seems like that's the route he wants to take. I know he talked about turning down an audition for Superman Legacy. He didn't want to do it. He really wants to like act and doesn't want to do like, I guess not. That's really want to do like mainstreamy franchising movies. And that might come off pretentious at 26, but but you should be proud of your creative output. So there's nothing
exactly. At the end of the day, he's shaping, not to borrow from the movie, but his own legacy and like his own career. So, I mean, I can appreciate how he wants to tailor and curate his own career. I didn't know that about him passing up on the Superman Legacy audition, so I can respect that.
Yeah. And as far as like, I told you I was going to give anything away, and there were moments in the movie that like, maybe because it's first thing in the morning, I was like, whoa, like caught me off guard.
Right.
Because I just, like I said, I wasn't ready for it. And like, I saw the trailer and I kind of heard people talking about it, but I didn't know how far it actually went. I kind of wish I had talked to a few other people. Well, maybe not. Actually, maybe I'm glad I was surprised. So people I talked to after that went to like screenings in person, where they said they could tell in the room that it was like people were either like really loving it, or they were just like, that was too much. So it was like a lot of that kind of mixed reaction. But I mean, even when the movie is divisive, that kind of reaction in person is fun, because you're like, to kind of feel that kind of what I'll give it credit for. It took some big swings, and I think it deserves credit for taking those big swings and taking chances, and everyone involved just giving 110%. Because I don't think it works if they're not committed to everything they're doing in that movie. And that ranges from like the actress to her screenplay to her direction. I just thought it was really good. I think you'll like it.
I'm totally expecting to. The trailer really impressed me, so very excited to see it tomorrow.
Yep. Do you want to switch to one of your watches, and then we can jump back to one of mine, or whatever you want to do?
No, go ahead. If there's other things you want to talk about, I kind of want to use one of mine to segue into a broader topic. So perfect. You get out what you had seen first.
So I watched May December this morning.
Which I was telling you, I don't really know anything about that beyond hearing about it.
So I actually didn't know a ton about it either. Natalie Portman's in it, Julianne Moore, Charles Melton, who was on Riverdale. This is like going to be a big movie for him.
What character does he play in Riverdale?
So he replaced Ross Butler on Riverdale. I forgot who Ross Butler played. Let me look it up real quick.
Oh, I know.
I think he
Reggie?
I think he came on in season 2. Yes, Reggie Mantle.
Okay, look at me. I haven't seen that show in years.
So he was on that show. Actually, a good textbook example of like you're in this kind of like award season movie, and they actually asked him about Riverdale.
Oh God,
he could have pulled a Jacob Elordi and talked smack, but he was basically like, a lot of actors would love that kind of opportunity. I'm glad that I had it, and it was a good opportunity for the time. But I'm looking forward to what I'm doing next. And that's how you answer that question.
That's sounding rude. Did you watch Riverdale when it was like peak?
I watched the first 3 seasons of it and then tapped out.
So did I. Yep, 3.5.
And I actually thought season 1 was actually really solid. Like I really thought
it opened with a bang for sure. I really liked season 1, but then it went way too off the rails.
Like most teen shows, no matter what the subject matter, they take a hard right sometimes because I think they run out of ideas. But so like May December is. I'll say more than loosely based. I don't know if you know about. There's a teacher named Mary Kay Letourneau who had a sexual relationship with a 13-year minor who was her student in real life, and she was married. She had kids. People found out about it. She went to prison. She got out, and then her and that once he got of age, they got back together. Were married for 20 years. Had kids themselves. And then they ultimately divorced, and then she passed away, I think, a year or 2 ago. But they eventually divorced, like years later. Right. But there was a kind of this thing in the media where something that started so tawdry and awful because it's awful, somehow got morphed into this love story because she loved him, and he loved her.
Holy shit!
And
that is quite the story.
And they actually did have a family. They had kids, and they had a life that they were both happy with for a long time. So the movie's based on that, but the kind of the hook is Julianne Moore is playing the Mary Kay Letourneau type character named Jackie, and Charles Melton plays Joe, who was a minor when they met. And Natalie Portman is playing an actress who is playing her in a movie, and she is going to basically shadow her so she can learn about her life and learn how the ins and outs of the relationship, so she can like play her from a truthful place. Now the movie is like really darkly funny too, because I've never seen it. It's been a while since I've seen a movie have so many tonal shifts that work. Like Todd Haynes directed it, and Sammy Birch wrote it. I don't know what else she has done, but the script it goes from being kind of darkly funny and campy to like really laying on the melodrama to having genuine moments of actual drama, and somehow you don't get like mental whiplash while you're watching it. Like it all works.
That's
somehow
impressive.
Everyone's very good in it. Natalie Portman plays a very on the nose kind of method actress in the movie. Just even her line delivery about like, when they ask her about like her TV show that she's on and the way she responds to like, they're like, oh, we're big fans of yours. And she's just like, oh, I just really appreciate that. Like very like on the nose about how those kind of actors would act.
I see.
And she has Natalie Portman's kind of subtle throughout most of the movie until later. She has a really epic monologue that's really, really good. And you kind of are like, oh, like the best actress field is very tight. I don't know if she'll make it. The only reason I know that she is going for best actress because on the back of the for-year consideration list they have who's going
it says
what.
Oh, okay.
So Julianne Moore could sneak into supporting because she's actually very good too. And Charles Melton, I think this is a good graduation kind of movie or project to show that he's a very capable actor because he is the heart of the movie. Like he really is. He plays someone that's kind of like in this state of like arrested development because right now when we meet him, he's 36, but when he got with her, he was 13. So she stole like whatever innocence that he had, and then they had kids, and he never quite got to really, in a sense, grow up. In a way, he's still being kind of controlled a lot by her. There's I won't give the scene away, but he has a great scene with Julianne Moore. That's like, well, that's your Oscar nominated moment.
If you're gonna get one, yeah. Okay.
If you're gonna get one.
Sweet.
And then Natalie Portman does really good solo stuff too, where they're like she's in like these conversations with Julianne Moore's character, and she's trying to mimic her as she's talking to her, but you don't really pay attention to it until you're like really watching, like, oh, like she's still trying to like figure out how she acts and how she like, puts her hands through her hair, how she crosses her legs. And it's just like all these little subtle things that like actors have to do to like make their parts believable. Like, that's why I loved about watching it. Is like these really like subtle nuances in it. But it's really good. It's going to be on Netflix on December 1st. So that's, I believe, Friday. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. That's one to look out for. I might try and get that in on the weekend then, because I would not have guessed from that title anything about the plot. It's not really related. So, I mean, that is something I would be all over. So, and with your, if it comes with your recommendation, then even more so.
Yeah. And the whole like May December, I didn't know this, is it has to do with an age disparity between like, when it comes to sexual relationships. So I even know what that meant, why it was called May December, because they call it like a May December romance. But it usually involves like an age gap between two people.
Interesting.
And but yeah, I respect if you can make that kind of humorous, because and like if you want a good indication of how kind of like what the vibe is, read Merc posted a review of it on his page.
Okay, I might have actually seen he post that. I definitely didn't read it yet, but
it kind of gives you an idea of what the movie is, and somehow it works, man. 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, like really like it.
That's
and a strong acting across the board, though. They're all very good. They all understood the assignment.
Okay,
and I don't know where that movie has, if there's 10 slots, maybe it can get in. Natalie Portman's going to be a tough one. She's very good, but it's just a crowded field, and then the two supporting ones are a toss up too. It just depends on
what the rest of the race looks like. Yeah,
maybe the screenplay too can get some, because it's a really tight script as well. And then other than that, I watched The Killer. I watched that too last night.
Yes, that's right. What did you think of David Fincher's latest outing? I wish he's got one more movie on this Netflix contract, does he not? Did he do a 3-picture deal?
I believe so.
I want him to be done. I want to go see David Fincher on the big screen. I love The Killer. I'm like, man, I wanted to have seen that on the biggest screen possible. But I saw that about a week or two ago now. Actually, I think I saw it the day it came out. So I was waiting for you to see it so we could chat a little bit about it.
I thought it was like a fun. I don't know where it ranks on like my overall like
Fincher like filmography. I put it like mid Fincher, but like very, very good. He's got one of those like the better
visually just amazing. That's why I wish I could have watched it on the big screen, because it looks I mean, he has an his own unmatched visual style, and you get that in this. I loved how like subtle and cool, calm and collected Michael Fassbender is.
Nice to see him back in like a good leading role. He hasn't done,
like we said, like it's like Dark Phoenix, which is even
worse. Dark Phoenix, yes.
which is even worse. I think he needed a break after.
He was like leading the 2010s, like the early half of the 2010s. He was on fire, and then he had some misses, and then he went dark. And now he's back, which is awesome.
And I think this year he had The Killer and Next Goal Wins. I've heard mixed things about Next Goal Wins, but yeah, glad he's back. He's very good. I thought he was very good in the movie. I've seen this one is divisive too for some people. But I mean, I've heard complaints about it not being much of a movie.
I've heard complaints that it's boring and there's no action.
I've heard that too.
If you know David Fincher, you're gonna like this movie.
It reminded me in ways, and I know they're not totally similar, but the way people had discourse about Drive when that movie came out with Ryan Gosling, where they were like, "Oh, it was advertised as something that had more action in it," and it really wasn't. It was really like an auteur action movie and barely any action. This was what that kind of reminded me of. But I loved comparison. I loved the kind of like it was still like it felt like a masterclass in filmmaking though. Even mid David Fincher is better than most.
Exactly, and I included that in my review of it actually. But I thoroughly enjoyed that. Was waiting for The Killer all year, so when it came out, I got my hands all over it. I think I definitely see, if nothing else, because like you said, it's a tight race for a lot of categories this year. I'd say it's definitely going to be up there for some technical Oscar nominations, like sound mixing for sure.
Sound mixing, cinematography, another good one.
That'd be a good one.
Like, of course, that a lot of these technical ones probably going to Oppenheimer. Just
okay, there you go.
That's honest, but like for wins at least. But yeah, I think it's going to get some technical nominations. I don't think it's going to get any like big mainstream nominations. Not director, not picture, not actor. But kudos to Michael Fassbender for mostly carrying the movie on his own. I mean, that's a feat in itself, and like and mostly through like voiceover dialogue, which is like to make that interesting too is a feat in and of itself. I wonder how this works because like David Fincher is like notorious for like a lot of takes, and I wonder how that works when you're doing you're doing voiceover too for like different scenes. And I would love to like be on the fly on the wall with like exactly how this movie was made in certain instances, because like there's a lot of kind of quiet in the scene, but like a lot of like kind of inner monologue and stuff like that. Which I still thought was cool. I thought it was an interesting movie. I really enjoyed it. I don't get the whole slow. It actually went by really fast for me. I thought
so
based
too.
on what people were saying that it was going to be slow, but it was over. It felt like it didn't feel long.
Well, it doesn't have an action scene every 5 minutes, so it's slow, right?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah,
I thought it was paced really, really well, and the action scene that we are treated to was like
it's really
grounded and well helmed and like visceral. So really, really thought that was a highlight of that movie. I'm really hoping. I don't know. I know that some of Netflix originals have had physical releases, but like now that I think about that, the 2 Netflix originals that I have are Criterions, and that's Martin Scorsese's The Irishman, and then Marriage Story. And I'm wondering if they do you know if they do physical releases on movies that not Criterion? Have you ever seen that?
Usually not. I think
I really hope they do, because I'd like to get my hands on that.
And and that is a complaint a lot. I've been asked this a lot, how I feel about, because there are a lot of vocal distractors out there that hate that Netflix pulls the whole in limited select theater run so they can qualify for awards, and then it's just on their platform. Some people don't think that should be counted as like films. They people like Amazon Studios and Apple are doing it in a way where they're giving them like full theatrical releases and then
can commend
putting them on their platform. I get the complaint, but these are still movies and they're being made as films. They're not being made as like TV movies.
Right.
May December had a $20 million budget. I'm sure this had a pretty decent sized budget too. Like, I mean, it's not being made as a TV show, but I get what they're saying. Like, Netflix should support the theatrical experience, but there has to be a reason why they don't do a big theater run. It must be working for their platform, and that's why they choose not to do it.
Well, I think it's the goal would be to maintain subscriptions or to get new. Like I literally only got my Netflix subscription. I had it canceled for the entire summer since the strike, and I got it back for The Killer. So it worked for people like me, which I'm sure there are several. And I hate that I had to do it. I'm entering my info again, and I'm like, fuck Netflix, reeling me back in for this.
And they raised their prices, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. They did. But like, if they're making money off a physical copy, off of like a physical media release, then I don't see why they wouldn't take advantage of that market, because I would be buying that instantly, because I really want. And same goes for Mank if we ever get a physical copy of that.
I think they really should. I mean, I think some streaming services are learning. Like I know Disney Plus released WandaVision as a physical release finally.
Neat.
And I think they're doing the same with Loki. I think they see. I think some of them are seeing the appeal that people want.
It's an untapped market for them. So I don't see why not.
Like we're hoping to cover this on an episode next month, where on a streaming service, like these can go away.
Which is
and they can scary. And even if you buy it on like something like Prime, there's like fine print that lets you know, like if they take it off their platform, even if you bought it,
that
sucks to be you.
That's a long-term rental, not a buy.
You don't physically own it, and that's why physical media is still important. So I would love. I mean, when I was watching it, I mean, it is presented in lovely 4K on Netflix, but I would love to. What a lot of people don't know, even if it's something that's on 4K on a streaming service, you're not getting like the full as intended 4K presentation. It's still kind of like scaled a little bit because it's having to be streamed.
If you're not watching it like through a 4K player, or something.
Right. So it, these physical releases are important. So that it would be one I would want to own.
Certainly,
because all his movies look great.
every single one of his movies in his filmography.
I think even Alien 3 looks great, and that movie's trash. So yeah, he's visually one of the really good directors. So
absolutely.
But yeah, I think that's all of them.
That's pretty solid watch list to the last little bit. Honestly, all great watches.
I know you got one that you were excited about one. Or
yes, I will get to that. So as mentioned, I was as much as I love Tales of Horror, I knew I would be segueing right from that back into my big dramas. So
hard-hitting dramas.
This is that time of year where I get those in. So after we covered Dallas Buyers Club, I kind of went on a little bit of a rampage. There's only really one that I wanted to spend some time talking about. But I showed my girlfriend Training Day, which was awesome. It's just an excuse to rewatch that. So really enjoyed that watch. Got in my first ever rewatch of a movie that I had not seen in probably close to a decade, but Terrence Malick's A Thin Red Line, which is probably to others known as the other World War II movie from 1998. And I would say the better World War II movie. It might be a hot take for some, but for those that haven't seen it, it's definitely on the other side of the spectrum from Saving Private Ryan, but really, really enjoyed that movie. That was incredible on rewatch. But then I was kind of going on a Ridley Scott binge because to prepare for Napoleon, which I'd seen in theaters yesterday as of recording, I rewatched one of his movies from 2021, The Last Duel, which I liked exponentially more on rewatch. That movie was a great rewatch. You pick up on a lot of more subtle details for those that haven't seen it, it kind of covers this one very tragic event and you get three different perspectives of it. And amongst those three perspectives, you get different details that are presented subtly differently depending on whose perspective we're following the story from. And it's presented in a genius way. You get the most subtle, even pronunciations of dialogues. You get the same scene three different times, and there's subtle little differences amongst all those three different sequences. And you get to pick up a lot of that now, having seen it outside of the theater. So that really enhanced that rewatch. But so I was thinking of some historical epic to prep myself for Napoleon, and Kingdom of Heaven had been high on my list. I think I'm just going to save that for another time. But I did get to see Napoleon on Sunday, and that was one of those movies I think I had mentioned. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't remember off the top of my head, but when we were covering our Oscar predictions at the beginning of this year, I'm sure I had Napoleon up there for a few of those. Like I said, I've been anticipating that pretty much, and he had announced that in 2021 right after he'd wrapped The Last Duel. So this is something that I've been anticipating for a while, like many of his fans. And I hesitate to use the word because the movie is very technically well made, but it's theatrical studio cut, I would say, left me a little bit disappointed. But it's not all lost. He's announced that he's got the 4-hour director's cut coming to Apple Plus at some point in the future, probably I would guess maybe January, February. I think that will go a long way for this movie. The studio cut left a lot to be desired. It's a grand epic story about a grand epic leader who it covers 26 years, I think, quite a bit of time. And that cut, and I commend him for being conscious of how moviegoers feel and not wanting to subject people to 3-hour movies, which we've gotten several of this year that ended up being fantastic. But I think he was sort of weary about keeping people in the theater for that long. So that it's a 240 cut. You can tell there's a lot of stuff left on the cutting room floor. You get massive jumps in the timeline from one scene to another. Not a lot. This is one of those rare movies I think would benefit from more exposition. I want to know what's going on in between the scenes and to set up the stakes. So I'm really looking forward to his director's cut, and I think it'll come out at a good enough time that I'll sort of be sitting on Napoleon and forget about it a little bit and then rewatch that director's cut. And unfortunately, I think that's probably going to impact how this movie is critically received. I don't expect everyone that sees it is going to go out of their way to watch the 4-hour version. So it's sitting at a 61 Metascore, and it's pretty it's pretty much agreed upon by audiences and critics. The last I had seen it, they were all pretty much sitting low 60s. Yeah, exactly. I think that will probably go up or skew upwards. I think we have a better cut of that movie out there, which is unfortunate because I think, like I said, technically helmed beautifully. The production values of this movie are as good as Ridley Scott's ever been. The costumes and set and makeup and hair, all 10 out of 10. It's really just the story that lacks, which is unfortunate. But I enjoyed it, but it was I'm skewing disappointed because of the cut that we were given, but
you had like pretty big expectations for this.
I really did, yeah. And I mean,
I think almost second to Oppenheimer, maybe third. I don't know.
Probably, yeah. I mean, looking at this movie on paper, you get this historical epic from one of the greatest living directors still, and Ridley Scott, this is his bread and butter genre, with Joaquin Phoenix, who's again probably one of the better working actors right now. He's still relatively fresh off a Best Leading Acting Oscar. Like, that is a great project for them to be, and they've worked together before on Gladiator. So on paper, this movie is fantastic. And I think it still has the potential to be, but just not in that theatrical cut, unfortunately. But you're right. I definitely had really high expectations for it. And I think I kind of set myself up for failure a bit, but from what I gather, a lot of people are feeling that way. But needless to say, give us that director's cut as soon as possible. But praise be to Apple.
I saw that like some of the complaints were that I think one guy I read today was saying it feels like chunks of it are missing.
Very much
like
so.
That was disappointing. But then I also saw some other guy who was like, it low key, at least in like, I guess in their own little group chats with like other people who are voting for award stuff, that there a lot of people who get to vote are finding it entertaining. Now I don't know if that's enough for them to like vote it in for anything major,
right?
But they're enjoying it a little bit more than like I think the kind of audience reaction would indicate. I know we're going to talk about it a little bit more in box office. It did open pretty well worldwide,
which is awesome. It'll probably not as good as it should, but it's nice that it came in a little bit over projection, I think. Did it not?
Yeah, it did. It did. Domestically, and then it had a good worldwide opening too. I mean,
great.
I mean, we're going to talk about the differences between some of these $200 million movies.
Yes, that's right.
When we talk about box office, but it's a win for Apple, who had this and Killers of the Flower Moon to kind of show that, hey, we care about director vision. We care about getting these movies out there theatrically, no matter how long and how, if the subject matter may not appeal to like everyone, we want them out there.
Right.
That's how they're able to attract Ridley Scott's and Martin Scorsese's of the world to their platform. And I still love that they haven't given like there's still no Apple release date for Killers of the Flower Moon, and that opened in October. I mean,
that's what I meant by praise be to Apple for really valuing the theatrical release and not giving audiences the opportunity or the means to just sit back and say, we'll wait for it to come to the streaming, because those are visionaries whose movies deserve to be seen on the biggest screen possible. And that's a studio that appreciates the theatrical experience, unlike certain other ones. So I got to give them all my love for that. That's great. And if you had told me or had me or pitched this a couple of years ago, that Apple would be this big player in the streaming game and that they would value the theatrical experience like this, I would not even, I would have turned my nose up to that notion completely. Yeah. So I got to say, like, I'm impressed with that, how they handle that. So, good for them.
Yeah, I am too. And I want to check it out because I do want to.
I would say see it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so many people I know that I trust their opinion. They were all over the place.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a bad movie by any means. I think my expectations eclipsed my enjoyment of it, but it's still worth seeing on the big screen for sure. I would have taken that 4-hour version on the big screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God. Oh, it was so funny because my brother was like, he'll just want to go see something. Like, hey, let's go to the movies. And I was like, I don't think there's anything out that you want to see. And I brought up Napoleon, and he's like, like he saw Killers of the Flower Moon, and he liked it. Okay. He was like, it just felt so long. It was just so long.
I can't blame him for that.
and he was like, this looks long too. And then he asked about Saltburn. I was like, I don't know. You might just be like, whoa, I don't know. There might be things that throw you off in that. So he ended up seeing the Trolls movie instead because he was just desperate for something. Desperate for something to see. But yeah, there's certain movies where I'm like, certain people will go with me to go see those. And I think I have one friend that might be interested in Napoleon, no matter what anyone's saying about it. So,
for sure.
Or just go by myself. I mean, I don't mind doing that.
I've done that too, and I will do that again, for sure. Yeah. It's a shame that we have so much land in between us, because like I would never turn down a chance. I know we go.
I'd probably be going to movies like I'd probably be in the movies every week, dude.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Because that my brother's like that for me here, because he's usually down to see almost anything. Like,
Nice.
I remember when it's not like a really great example, but I had no one to go see Don't Worry Darling with. I'm like, yo, do you want to go see that?
I almost forgot about that movie. Thanks a lot for bringing that up. But yes.
Yeah. And I was so like, oh, well, it wasn't good. So I'm sorry.
Hey, well, you
it's
don't know
like,
that until you see it. So at least you went on a limb and went and saw it in the theater.
Right. Not a dumpster fire by any means, but like it just could have been better.
Mm-hmm.
And it just depends on
yes.
Just overhyped stuff in your brain sometimes. Like, oh, this is gonna be so good.
Exactly. And you gotta be cautious of that. Luckily that didn't happen with a lot of other movies I was excited for this year, but and I'm expecting to kind of walk these comments back when the 4-hour one comes out, and then maybe I'll enjoy Napoleon a little bit more than I do right now, because it's like we're getting a whole other runtime of a movie on top of that. An hour 20 minutes is considerable. So
I mentioned Kingdom of Heaven to you offline yesterday, and completely different movies.
I'm expecting that.
There are people that professional critics who poorly reviewed the theatrical cut and love the director's cut. So that's how different they are. And he fought. The studio fought with him a lot on that one. I don't think this is a case with this, because you say he approved this.
Yeah, I had assumed that the studio sort of mandated that 240 cut and then sort of neutered the movie, but I was completely wrong. At least according to, I can't remember where. I think it was in the IMDb trivia that apparently this was Ridley's decision and he didn't want to. I believe he coined a new phrase of bum ache. He didn't want to subject audiences to that
too long.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I can appreciate him looking out for audience members, but I don't think it really benefited this movie though.
But a lot of bum achy movies this year too.
That even in the latter half of the year for sure.
Yeah.
But while we're on the topic of Ridley's movies, this is the segment that I mentioned to you offline that I had for you. I thought it would be an interesting little game, and hopefully you haven't already looked these up anytime recently, because that'll defeat the purpose. But I have in front of me Ridley's highest grossing box office runs, his top 5. And I was wondering, not in any particular order, but I wanted to see if you would be able to pluck any of them out in sort of like a game show style. Yes. And just a rapid fire sort of way.
So it's kind of like
so we'll do like a 3 strikes you're out sort of idea. Yeah, exactly. So like you get three strikes you're out, but let's see how many of the top 5 you get. And I got to say, when I was looking these up, I was surprised for a few of these to be on here. And
is this like globally or like
I'm going, I'm assuming, but I don't actually know, but I'm gonna guess.
They usually make it global when there's like they're talking about box office figures. Okay,
you might know once you get one right, and I tell you then like what it made, you might be able to discern if it's global or domestic. But I'm guessing it's global based on the numbers.
Gladiator would have to be 1, right?
Gladiator's in the number 2 spot at 458. So good job, you're 1 for 1.
All right, and global. There we go. So The Martian.
He's got a lot to choose from. The Martian is in the number 1 spot.
Right?
That raked in 630 million globally. Congrats. You're 2 for 2.
I will never forget his confusion when it won Best Musical or Comedy at the Golden Globes.
I didn't even realize that because I wasn't really paying attention that year. That's awesome. You know what is actually a hilarious moment about this movie for me that I can't believe I'm actually admitting in public. But at first, like when this was first coming out, I was under the assumption that this movie was adapted from a real life story. I didn't realize that until
based on a true story.
Yes. But no, we've actually never been to Mars. So I remember like,
no, we've not been to Mars.
This is not a real story. This is fiction, and being like, I am
hilarious.
So stupid. But yes, I really I'm due for a rewatch of that actually. But
it does give off a vibe that it could be real. I mean,
it's handled in a very grounded way. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Prometheus
is in the number 3 spot. Well done. That raked in 403 million at the global box office. So you got the top 3, so 4 and 5 with no strikes on the board. Good work. 4 blew my mind, so I'm interested to see if you'll get that one.
I'm trying to think of not Alien Covenant, huh? No, I'll name that just in case.
You got to let me know if it's a guess or not, because I got.
All right. Alien Covenant, yeah.
Alien Covenant is not on there. No, it was in the top 10 of his, I think, but not the top 5. So there's 1 strike on the board.
Shit. I'm trying to think of all his movies.
He's got a lot of movies to choose from.
I know he does. Oh shit. He had a really good run with like a few things.
Yeah.
Shit. Well, I'll just say House of Gucci. I don't think it was though. But I'll throw it in there.
On there. Oh, there's strike number 2. I don't remember what I saw for that. How it did, but
it did well. I just don't remember it. Like, yeah. Shit.
These last 2 are hard. The first 3 are definitely easier than the last 2, that's for sure. And they're not conventional. One of them is, but the number 4 spot, I would guess, is not a conventional Ridley Scott movie. At least I didn't think so. Hopefully that's not a deterrent. Hopefully that doesn't mess you up.
Things that he's done. Shit. You know what? It's not this, but I'm just gonna say it. No. Fuck.
You got one more.
Jesus.
One more X to work with here.
Fuck. I'll just say Thelma and Louise. I know it's not, but I'll just throw that in there.
That's the 3rd strike. It's not on there. I think it did well for him, but so the 4 spot was Hannibal.
I forgot he directed that.
I know. That's what I mean. Not a conventional Ridley Scott movie. That movie did 352 at the worldwide box office.
I forgot.
I watched
he had
half hour.
He had Ray Liotta eat his brains in that movie. That's all I remember. Is that there's that whole scene.
I remember seeing that into it.
I remember seeing that in theaters, and it like we love horror movies, right? But
yes.
like that movie, even at the time when it came out, just seeing that with an older crowd who clearly was not ready for a scene like that, like
right.
it really turned their stomachs like physically in the theater. You can feel it.
Okay.
Totally feel it. Yeah.
How do you think that movie holds up to Red Dragon and
I love Red Dragon.
Me too.
Red Dragon it's much better than it has any right to be because it's directed by Brett Ratner. He got lucky. I don't know how.
That's a good point.
Yeah. When you have a cast that stacked and they're that good, it doesn't matter who's directing it, I guess.
Hey, I think so, yeah.
It's definitely it's nowhere near as good as Silence of the Lambs. I mean, it's a beautiful movie. I remember that. I remember it looks great.
Mm-hmm.
And Julianne Moore actually isn't a bad substitute for Jodie Foster. It's just that role is so much associated with
I think that movie got shot in the foot.
I think that was like the hard part for other than Anthony Hopkins coming back. I mean, Julianne Moore was in a really tough spot, I think, replacing her because Jodie Foster won an Oscar for it. And,
yeah, exactly.
And Silence of the Lambs was such a big cultural, huge
phenomenon,
movie.
Yeah,
at the time, yeah. But yeah, it's kind of a movie I do want to rewatch. I mean, not anytime soon.
I might if you think it's worthwhile. I watched this years ago, and like I said, I didn't get very far. I actually was not in the mood for it after I threw it on. There's a opening like shootout, like with the FBI.
I remember that. It feels so misplaced. It's forgot
like a 2000s slow-mo action sequence, and it's so out of place. And I was like, what
I do remember that. It feels like it's like a totally different movie when it starts. Yeah.
So I got a little bit after that, but I remember turning it off. I must have been like 17 or 18.
I have it on Blu-ray, and like it was in a 2-package thing with Silence of the Lambs.
Okay, nice.
They released a 4K of Red Dragon. I don't know if there's one for Hannibal, but I would get Red Dragon for sure. Well, that is a movie I would love to cover eventually because I haven't watched Red Dragon. I haven't watched
Red Dragon.
Oh, maybe all 3 of them. I don't know. I haven't watched them in
something to cover sometime for sure. We can put that on the list. But while we're on it, the 5th was another Ridley Scott Russell Crowe collaboration, and his 5th highest grossing, at least box office. And again, I don't even know if these were adjusted for inflation or not, but it was Robin Hood, which I also haven't seen. Yeah, Robin Hood.
So that must have made all its money overseas. So I don't think it did great here.
Okay, you probably remember.
Yeah,
322 at the global
it
box
definitely
office.
made all its money elsewhere.
I'm guessing too, probably in the UK, maybe some over there.
Yeah, probably that's crazy. That those last 2 are unexpected.
That's what I thought too.
Well, I guess Hannibal. When Hannibal came out, it had been like a huge gap between Silence of the Lambs, and people were interested in it. But the book that it's based on too is as well received as Silence of the Lambs was. So there was still that, but it was also a sequel to like a big Oscar-winning movie that made a lot of money.
When did Red Dragon come out?
I believe 2003. Well, Edward Norton did it the same. He filmed it the same year that he did 25th Hour. 25th Hour came out. 25th Hour came out 2002. So I'm thinking 2003. I'm gonna look it up.
Okay, so because Hannibal was 2001. I honestly assumed that Hannibal was a 3rd one, so that's crazy.
Yeah, Red Dragon. They only did that one because Manhunter, which like Red Dragon's the prequel to Silence of the Lambs. So
Right.
Manhunter was made in the 80s without, of course, Anthony Hopkins. Brian Cox played Hannibal in that, and the studio was like, "Hey, we want to make all three of these that have Anthony Hopkins in them as Hannibal Lecter." So that's how Red Dragon came about. And like I said, I remember seeing that in the theaters. I actually thought it was really good. It's again not as good as Silence of the Lambs, but I think it holds up really well. It's a good,
I agree,
serial killer thriller. But I still remember being like, again, Brett Ratner just got fucking lucky because he's not a good director,
right?
By any means.
I've always enjoyed that movie too.
Oh no, actually it came out in 2002. It was released on October 4, 2002. So Edward Norton had 2 movies that year that came out.
Okay, so is Hannibal the year before then?
I
thought it was 2001.
Let's see. Yeah, 2001.
I did not. Maybe that's why I can't remember when Red Dragon came out because I never associated those movies as being that close together.
Yeah. In my movie memory, they feel like they're very far apart.
That's how I associate them too. I don't know
at least more than a year apart. But yeah, the more you know.
Interesting.
Oh, and then I forgot Gary Oldman played that dude with the fucked up face. The guy chewed on by the pigs.
Yeah.
That movie is just gross. I know that's why Jodie Foster didn't want to do it because she read the book and the book is very graphic, but so is Silence of the Lambs. So I don't know what's the difference. But there is a lot of graphic stuff.
Silence of the Lambs.
There is some graphic stuff in Hannibal that's like, ugh.
Have you seen the show Hannibal?
Oh, I love the show.
Yeah, the show was great. Cam put me on that. We watched all that together, and love him for that because that show was sick.
Solid
and also,
example of
God, disturbing in so many places, but
yeah,
very
I can't believe that was a network show. It was on NBC.
I know.
They aired on Saturdays where no one would watch it, but whatever.
No. Well, at least it got somewhat of a conclusion. I think
it had a big cult following. It was never like a huge ratings because it was on Saturday,
right?
But I think over time it got, and then when they added it, I think they put it on Netflix eventually, and it took off there. So yeah, that was a good game. I like that.
Yeah, well, I'd like to do that again. I had that in my back pocket to do, and we can do that with sort of anything. But just
there was no way I was getting the other two because I forgot about Hannibal. I forgot he did it.
Right. I don't blame you for that.
And I thought it was fun. No way I would have guessed Robin Hood.
No, I don't blame you at all. I don't even know how I would have done on that game myself either. But I thought that was a fun little exercise while Ridley's in the news, and sort of like segueing off of Ridley and Napoleon and its big budget historical epic. There was a article released just here recently by IndieWire chronicling there was quite a few, particularly the figure that they were focused on with this article was the $200 million budgeted movie from 2023, of which there were 14. And I wanted to see too, if you could guess, there was of those 14 movies from this year that had a production budget. This isn't considering marketing,
but marketing and all that.
A production budget of $200 million. Only one of those 14 has turned a profit as of at least us talking about it right now, because some of them just came out. Napoleon and Wish are both on this list, and they have only just come out. Right. I was curious if you would be able to know, or if you had seen already, which of those one actually made a profit.
Dude, I would have no idea.
I didn't know either. It kind of seemed like when I saw it, I was like, okay, facepalm, but it's Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Oh, that makes sense because they made like 800.
Yeah, exactly. Only Marvel movie to have made a profit this year. Only superhero movie, I think, in general that made a profit at the box office this year, which is crazy 180 in those last few years.
It's a huge 180. There's a big thing about Disney too this year. There was something. So Avatar: The Way of Water, of course, opened at the end of
2022
last year,
right?
And then they were counting the money because like once you go into the new year, they kind of reset, and this is how much money it made in 2023 or whatever. Apparently, Avatar: The Way of Water made $283 million in 2023, and that is technically the highest grossing domestic earner for a Disney related film this year. All of their movies that they released this year have grossed less than that. It's been, I guess, the first time since 2014, not counting the pandemic years of 2020 and 2021,
right,
that they haven't had a movie make $1 billion globally
in a year.
Some people are some people are very proud of this. They think it's like, well, serves them right, because they because they think they have a monopoly on everything. Wish is another example of, I didn't know that this movie was a $200 million animated movie, but it is.
I never would have guessed that. I didn't know anything about this movie until I saw it for the first, not the movie, but saw anything about it for the first time like this week. Like,
yeah,
what is up with that?
Yeah, it was projected to open to 50 plus over the 5 days. Okay. And I believe it made 32.5 million in 5 days and 19.5 million in 3 days. It's not gonna make its money back, at least here. And then it only had a worldwide opening of $49 million. So like,
I heard it bombed in the Chinese market as well too, where it would have done well otherwise.
Yeah, and Disney's had that problem lately with it. November, Thanksgiving used to be a lucrative time. This is like the time of like Frozen and they've had really good examples of. But lately, they had that Strange World movie last year that opened over Thanksgiving that bombed.
Yeah,
they've had a lot of stuff that just hasn't hit.
Not their year for sure. 2022 was tough as well, but 2023 for sure was a terrible year for big studio movies.
If you agree with this, some people think that Disney is suffering from the fact that the Disney Plus thing hurts them. They think because there's certain animated movies that they make that go straight to that platform, and then others they choose to release theatrically. A lot of people think that has hurt their theatrical input in animation, because it's like, oh, I mean, I'll just either wait for you to release it here at home, or what is it about this one that makes it special enough to get a theatrical release? Like the Wish got really bad reviews. It wasn't even a well-reviewed animated movie, and usually that doesn't matter sometimes for kids movies. Sometimes they'll still do well, but I think Wish has 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that's not good by Disney standards at all.
No.
I haven't seen the movie, but I've heard there's just like a kind of sameness to its traditional animation. I know they kind of like were marking it as like 100 years of Disney and like all that stuff, but I think they've proven even with their Pixar like output that they need to do something that's a little bit more special than just kind of. I don't think there's like they don't try as hard anymore. I mean, and Disney's gone through this before. They're like there is a golden age of Disney animated movies. Kind of starts with like The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, and then after that they kind of hit a wall again.
Right,
and then they kind of like ebbs and flows with them a lot. But this is seems like a pretty long streak for
a long streak, and I'm thinking this is going to be a catalyst for them to pivot and take a different approach in the next. I'm gonna probably write off 2024 because they have stuff coming down the pipeline. But I think going forward after that, they will have to do a different approach, because I think they're in a net loss for this year. Definitely,
which is a very rare position for them to be in.
Exactly. I think after the success of like the 2019 movie season, they kind of got comfortable and didn't. I think you're right, where doesn't seem like they're trying as hard anymore. But they have stakeholders to answer to who do not want to see losses, and I think this is going to precipitate a shakeup there. It's going to have to, because you can't be losing money as a company, and as much as they are losing on some of these projects, then collectively it's even more. I get why, and I don't like this approach. I don't agree with it, but like economically, I understand that why they're saving some of their movies for Disney Plus, because they want to grow subscribers, and that is. There was another article this year that is. Shed some light on Disney Plus. I think that it's only bled money for them so far. So
a lot of these streaming services had for like I think Peacock's the same way. I don't know about Paramount Plus. I don't really hear a lot about them.
Neither do I. They're not a huge player.
But I think a lot of them have. They always say like, "Oh, we have losses." Like,
right.
Okay. well, why? When you see some gains,
you can't be running in the negatives for too long. I think Disney Plus is a good concept to have all of Disney's content in one place to stream easily, but I think that should have been a place to prioritize their older content, like their older movies, their golden age stuff, their 40s cartoons and animated, and then theatrically release your new stuff, your Pixar's, your Marvels, your Star Wars content, and then bring that into the streaming platform later. I don't think that the saving and like losing out on these theatrical dollars has been a good move for them. And then the ones that they are releasing, thinking they're going to make a bunch of money from the theaters, have been tanking. And it seems like they're all over the place right now. But
That's crazy that only one movie that cost $200 million to make turned a profit.
like I'll go over the other ones with you
But-
too, because there's some from earlier this year that we've kind of forgotten about. And IndieWire was nice enough to put down their budgets and their worldwide gross. So there's some, obviously, like, because we cover the stuff, we know a little bit about the ins and the outs, but the numbers might not seem like, how is this not making money? But you got to consider where the studio's losing money to theaters and whatnot.
Yeah.
So Fast X is up there. It had a $340 million budget. Obviously, COVID delays. It raked in $714 million. It doesn't say the loss, but it's
there
on the
will
list
be.
because
It would have to be, because I think you're supposed to make like 2 times your production budget.
Some
how
say
that kind of works.
2.5 exactly.
Yeah, and that doesn't even count marketing for that movie. So that's,
which there was a lot of a Super Bowl ad. I think.
I hope they sold a lot of 4Ks.
Yeah, they're gonna, and that's the thing. Like, these might make up some on the back end, but I think the profitability ship is sailed at this point for the ones mentioned in the article. Another Disney, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, had a $295 million budget that only brought in $384 million.
That definitely didn't break even at all.
Bigger losses.
Yeah.
Little Mermaid had a $300 million budget, according to IndieWire. That's crazy.
Jesus, that is crazy.
It made $570 million. So it made a lot, but not profit.
Right. Not profit, yeah.
Oh man, I can't believe that movie was $300 million. That's crazy.
I guess a lot of fake underwater stuff.
I guess, yeah, definitely a lot of CGI, which is expensive, which is the case for probably most of these movies.
Most of these.
Sad to see Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning is on here with a $291 million budget. It also brought in a lot, only 568, but not enough to be profitable.
That had COVID problems too. That sucks.
Yeah, true that.
Yeah,
and I was talking to Cam about this yesterday, and I found myself I couldn't remember if Dead Reckoning Part 2 had already been filmed. Is that budget part?
No, they still have to shoot it.
Oh,
so no.
boy.
So,
shit.
No, yeah.
I don't know where I was on that thinking.
I think that was the plan.
Okay, maybe that's what I was thinking.
And then COVID happened.
Yikes. Well, that's an expensive loss. Then Guardians of the Galaxy 3, as we covered, the only one who made some money on this list, had a $250 million budget, which is still high, but modest compared to these other ones. It made it $845 million at the global box office. The Marvels, one of the
only Marvel hit this year.
Yeah, exactly, which is tough. The Marvels, which just came out as of now, it had that $220 million budget. IndieWire had projected it to make $220 million, so to make the production budget back. That's box office run isn't over yet.
Small miracles.
Yeah, I don't think it's projected to make $100 million domestically yet. That might change, but it's not looking like it yet. The Flash, which we know was one of the bigger bombs of the year too, until the Marvels took that top spot, but that has, according to IndieWire, $200 to $220 million budget with a $271 million gross. So that's a big
loss.
Another tough one. Ant-Man and the Wasp had a $200 million budget with a $476 million gross. Another Disney with Elemental had a $200 million with a $496 million gross at the box office.
And I got lucky because it had legs eventually, for it to make as much as it did, but it still started too small.
That's right. I actually forgot that came out this year. I thought that was last year's.
Yeah, I kind of did too, actually.
And a picture.
I'm really bad. I'm bad with some animated movies immediately.
Me too. I don't really pay attention to them as much, which I probably should, but maybe not based off how the last few years have been going for them. But Killers of the Flower Moon 2 up here, another sort of straying away from Disney. This is one of Apple's sort of gambles. Had a $200 million budget with only a worldwide gross of $160 million. But I think it's a little bit different with this and Napoleon, where it's the box office is sort of bonus. It's really was made to have its life on streaming. So those numbers don't mean as much, I guess, for the ones that were born for the theaters. Still not. I mean, you'd like to
not great, but
more.
It's still, yeah.
Would you have guessed that Transformers: Rise of the Beasts had a $200 million budget? I guess I didn't. I was surprised.
No, not at all.
But it had a $200 million with a $439 million gross. I can't remember if we covered that or not, but I was like, oh shit.
That's crazy.
And then Wish and Napoleon, both with $200 million budgets. That again, the figures aren't out yet, but I don't think they're projected to break. And then the only one that hasn't opened yet is the new Aquaman new Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom movie, which I saw the trailer for ahead of Napoleon, and I did not like it at all. It's got a budget of $205 million. Did you see the trailer yet?
Oh yeah, it's bad. I didn't like
Did
the
you
first
think so
one either,
too?
though. Yeah,
I didn't see
like
the first trailer or the first movie. You didn't like the first movie?
I didn't like the first movie, no.
I didn't see it. I'm sad to see. I don't know if it was just negligence on my behalf or if I had heard about it and had forgotten, but I didn't realize James Wan was back in the director's chair for this.
Yeah,
that's tough.
I'm rooting. I want to root for him.
I love him. I want him to do well.
Yeah,
but I don't like what I saw.
Well, this is why you should normalize smaller budgets because, like we mentioned last week, that new Hunger Games movie is $100 million film. Last weekend everyone was like, "Oh, it had a modest opening of like 44 million plus,"
right?
And then, but we did mention, I think, on here that it's the kind of movie that could play well over the holiday, and it ended up doing that. It made $42 million in 5 days. And 28.8 million in 3 days, and by the end of its run, it probably will make over $300 million worldwide, maybe more. And it could be $150 million earner here. But I think what's helping them is that the budget was only $100 million, and it looks like a much more expensive movie. I mean, I guess like the actors in that movie aren't like huge; they're not expensive, but
huge earners, yeah.
But
that's another help too.
You can make a movie like that and have it, look like a $200 million movie and kind of save yourself on the back end where if you have to rely on like global grosses from all these different places to break even sometimes, and that's crazy.
That is crazy. And there's a couple other good examples from in this same article that I'm looking at right now that just go to show that you do not need these huge budgets are unnecessary, and like you can yield a profit by not spending as much money. Five Nights at Freddy's is a good example, regardless of what you think of the movie. It was made for 20 million. It's earned 272 million. Like that is impressive. And
and by the way, I'm glad you brought that up. It's officially Blumhouse's highest grossing movie globally
ever.
Which is crazy because it's also on Peacock. So I mean, they won on both ends of that.
Definitely.
Yeah, it surpassed Split over the weekend as the highest grossing Blumhouse film. And it didn't have legs. I mean, it opened to $80 million, and I think it's made like 136 here. That means that it had like huge drop offs every weekend. But it's when it's not cheap, then it doesn't really matter how big the drop off is. And now there's going to be a franchise most likely, so good for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think Across the Spider-Verse is another good example of a small budget, and it made a lot of money, and it looks like an expensive movie, more expensive than it probably is.
I think it's a movie that probably could have paid its animators better, considering how good the work is in it.
There could be that too. Of course.
Yeah. The budgets for the next two are bigger.
That was interesting that Napoleon, the global opening was 78.8 million. That was better than the 44 million global opening of Killers of the Flower Moon. Just comparing the two Apple movies. But I think because Napoleon is a historical epic, it has more of a worldwide appeal than Killers of the Flower Moon. It also opened above expectations too, which is good. I think I said 25 million for the.
You did, and I said 24.
Yeah, and it came in above that. So
okay. Do you got the exact number domestic in front of you?
The 5 day was 32.5 million. So definitely ahead of what we were going to say. Great. And I believe 22 something for the
3 day.
3 days.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, when movies like this actually 20.6 million. Sorry. But movies like historical epics are a tough sell. So I mean, the fact that it made more than tracking says a lot.
A win for sure.
And also, kudos to Eli Roth, who had Thanksgiving only dropped 31.4% in its 3 day gross. It grossed $7 million over 3 days and a little over 10 for the 5 days. It had the best second weekend hold of a horror film this year, and there were a lot of horror films released in 2023. So
yes, there were. Yeah.
So like when it's all said and done, Thanksgiving could probably earn like 45 million, maybe, and that's pretty good for a movie that costs $15 million to make. It it's rolling out slowly overseas, so it can get bump from that. But horror movies usually drop like 50% or more in their second weekend. So
exactly.
I don't know. I don't know if that's a combination of the movie just being good with people, or people want to go see a Thanksgiving movie on Thanksgiving.
I think that must have been an appeal. I'm hoping that we get more Eli Roth movies with less of a gap in between them. I'd like to see him pump out some more movies.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is his first box office genuine hit since Hostel, and that is crazy because he's made other stuff since. It's just like even Hostel Part 2 didn't do that well when it came out in theaters. I don't really even remember. I just remember it involving girls instead of the guys,
right,
on a trip. But yeah, a lot of good. There's some good box office news, and of course, with $200 million, it's some bad box office news for some certain people.
I think you can look at like this list and the figures that these movies have done at the box office, and like look at it dismally, and like think maybe people are drawing from this. I'd be curious what you think if this looks like the movies are not in a healthy state or that people aren't going as much. But I think really what the picture is that studios, in particular Disney and Warner Brothers and whoever else is shelling out these massive budgets, are spending too much on their movies.
They are spending too much on. I mean, I've always
think is the problem.
I think a lot of it is that, and I get I still don't totally understand it, but I almost understand more spending that much money on like a proven IP. You're like, oh wait, we've had several of these movies that are hits, so let's pour more money into them. Mm-hmm. I totally don't get it when they put that much money into something that is like not proven. Right. I remember when Battleship came out years ago, and that was a $200 million movie, and I was like, why are you spending $200 million on something that? I mean, I think they were hoping it'd be like the next Transformers or something, and that didn't happen. Right. They also were putting a lot behind Taylor Kitsch at the time. He was supposed to be like the next big.
Is that right?
Thing after Friday Night Lights.
Was he what's that Disney movie?
John Carter.
John Carter, yes. Was that him?
Another big ass bomb. He was part of two big ass bombs. He was in Savages though, which I did like. But it's he had a rough go at it. But yeah, I mean, it's too much money being spent on these movies. I think people are going to the movies.
I mean, they've all brought in dollars.
Yeah, it's just
think of
it's
the
hard
Barbenheimer phenomenon too, right? Like those two movies between them made $2.5 billion.
Yeah, and you have to, when you have a $200 million movie, plus you got to market it. That's usually 100, 150, could be more depending on the. I don't know. If I was the head of a studio, I'd be like, "Yo, reduce your budgets somehow."
Yeah, exactly. This year, that's a lesson to be learned, I think, so far.
Right. I guess I should also mention for any Taylor Swift fans out there that her concert movie has made $250 million worldwide. 178 million of that is domestic. And what makes this performance more impressive is that this movie did not play on the weekdays. This was only a weekend movie from Thursday to Sunday for each week that it's been out. So all of its money has been made by pure weekend money.
Holy.
And it's also 2 hours and 49 minutes. So I guess it doesn't really matter how long something is if people really want to go see it. But I also commend her for that because she went around the studio system to get this done. And
agreed.
Her and AMC theaters were laughing all the way to the bank. So good for you.
Girl's now a billionaire.
Yeah, she's now a billionaire. I actually thought this was going to be able to become the highest grossing concert film worldwide. It is the highest grossing concert film domestically. But Michael Jackson's This Is It is still the highest grossing concert film worldwide with $272 million. And I think this one's running out of gas. So I don't think it's going to catch the Michael Jackson thing, which I hadn't thought about that movie since it came out when he died in 2009.
Yeah.
Really good concert movie at the time. I have it. But one of my friends actually rewatched that because we kept mentioning it. And he was like, dude, it's completely solid. I mean, I know it's like sad to think about because that was like just the last rehearsal footage of him, before he passed away. But really solid concert movie too. But I really thought hers was going to beat it, but not enough gas in the tank. But again, most of this money is hers and AMC. So.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure she's not crying any tears over that. And I mean, Michael is the king, right?
That's true. And I guess we could say, speaking of crying tears, if you're a Scream fan,
oh God, yes,
you had a rough week last
yes,
week. I'm a Scream fan, but I will say this fandom, and apologizing to anyone that listens who is a huge Scream fan and you fall in this category, but this fandom can be kind of crazy. They're still going off about this stuff.
really, okay,
but this is the kind of story that seems like it gets broken up into installments because it kept like evolving over like the course of a few days.
right. This is for those listening. This is what we were talking about an hour and 10 minutes ago that we said we'd get to. Finally coming full circle. Yes.
So Scream had a really good year this year. Scream VI made a lot of money. It's probably one of the highest grossing entries of the franchise in the last 26 years. I think $168 million worldwide. I think the budget was $35 million. So, there's a lot of like heat coming off of it. However you felt about the movie, it was still, it showed that franchise is still completely viable. And every Scream fan was hoping after the strike that we were going to get all this like casting news, and they would talk about Nev Campbell coming back.
We did get casting news, but not in the right.
So yeah, we got some casting news that which started as a rumor that Melissa Barrera was quietly dropped. That's how it was promoted. Quietly dropped from the movie after some social media posts she made regarding the conflict with Israel and Palestine, which is, it's a touchy subject. We're not going to touch it entirely here, but we might talk about is it right for a production company to let go of someone because they happen to have an opinion one way or the other about something. So this story originally was buried in a much larger Variety print-only article that was talking about how all these studios are being tough on actors who are speaking out on this. Susan Sarandon was let go by her, I believe her a talent agency for comments that she made regarding this too. So it's a touchy subject in Hollywood. I didn't know what to think about this at first. It felt like a rumor. It felt like a really big rumor.
Right.
And I was like, okay, well, let's look into this more. And then it turned out to not be a rumor. I think the story got too hot and Variety couldn't just hold. I think they wanted to break it first within their bigger article, and then somehow, some way, it got out and it leaked. And they did confirm what they said, that she was let go because
and it was specifically related to this tweet.
Yeah. Okay. So she wrote, one of the things that she wrote that was in the Hollywood Reporter article was like, Gaza is currently being treated like a concentration camp, cornering everyone together with nowhere to go, no electricity, no water. People have learned nothing from our histories, and just like our histories, people are still silently watching it all happen. This is genocide and ethnic cleansing. She also posted something on Instagram where she was talking about the algorithm and wanting to see stuff from both sides, and that depending on your algorithm, you were only seeing one side of it more than the other. And there was an interpretation of that implied that you were only really seeing that algorithm that was more pro-Jewish because Hollywood is run by mostly Jewish people, and that is kind of what they thought that she was getting at. I didn't think that when I read that.
I took the time a few days later to actually find the Instagram post, thinking it was going to be much worse and like clearly anti-Semitic. I did not get that impression at all. I got to say, I was like, they're upset over this. I was very surprised. My mind, honestly, I had to walk back my initial thoughts. I just assumed the worst and that she said something clearly stupid. I do not hold that opinion after reading what she said. I thought it was ridiculous that she had this like punishment dealt out over this very common sentiment over this conflict. And I got to agree with her. It's pretty objective, however you look at it. And I get, like, it's a good point about the algorithm. Some people, depending on what they engage with, are going to be sent certain perspectives on this conflict, but looking at it objectively, I don't think she's wrong by any means.
Right. I don't think she's wrong either. The response to this was very swift and quick.
Yes.
we jokingly talked about it because I was like, I don't remember Melissa Barrera as an actress getting this much support in, especially after 2022 Scream. Maybe more so after this last one, because I thought she was better in this one than the last one. I know you are like,
I don't think she was worse, but I'm more indifferent on how she is. I don't think she's anything special, but I agree. I was surprised at all the support she got from the fandom.
She got some mad support right away. It was, I think she gained in that the first few hours, she gained 130,000 Instagram followers.
Go girl.
You know, everyone started promoting the hashtag Justice for Melissa. There was a lot of people were standing by her, and then basically denouncing the Scream franchise if they're not going to make this right. But there's no way our Spyglass Media Group being the people that own the rights to Scream now.
Right.
Everyone's thinking it's Paramount. Paramount is the distribution people behind it. Spyglass owns the rights.
I'm sure there are tons of people that do not understand that distinction and are probably shitting on Paramount right
who
now.
are like Paramount, like what are you doing? And, and honestly, Spyglass is also responsible for paying their actors too. So the reason Nev Campbell didn't get a lot of the money she wanted, that is a Spyglass Media Group problem.
Yeah.
So I guess sensing that they were getting this pushback for their decision, they responded to it publicly right away, because usually they don't. They would like sit on this and let people think what they want to think. But what they wrote was that they believed her comments were interpreted as anti-Semitic, and says Spyglass stance is unequivocally clear. We have zero tolerance for anti-Semitism or the incitement of hate in any form, including false references to genocide, ethnic cleansing, Holocaust distortion, or anything that frequently crosses the line into hate speech. Again, I did what you did too. Read all her stuff. I didn't get that impression.
Not at all.
And think that they were majorly overreacting. That being said, I was like, well, no Melissa Barrera. There's still other people in the movie. There are bigger stars than her, and one in particular is a bigger star than her.
Absolutely.
But Jenna Ortega, busy girl though, apparently. So the very next day, which is why this timing is suspect, which a lot of people don't believe this is the reason why she's not coming back.
I'm sure it's a factor, but I agree with you that it's not.
I think she would have tried harder.
Yeah.
So the next day, after this news drops, Jenna Ortega, it gets announced that she's not coming back for Scream VII. They tried to clean it up with a lot of, well, we knew this for months, and we knew that her schedule of shooting Wednesday season 2 is going to be an issue because that's shooting in Ireland. It doesn't start shooting till April. That could all very well be true. There are a lot of people that think that, like, yes, even if that was true, that maybe she agreed to hold on to the fact that she wasn't leaving, or that she was leaving and wouldn't be back until this story about Melissa Barrera broke. And she probably was like, well, this is my way of showing I support her by being like, yeah, I'm not coming back either, even if that's not the specific reason why she won't be coming back. This is a tougher blow than Melissa Barrera, because Jenna Ortega is a much bigger star and has become a much bigger star
certainly
since 2022. Not that long.
She blew up quick.
So everyone was like, well, this movie is dead, get rid of it, toss it in the trash. It can't last without Jenna Ortega. They need her. And then Variety pumped out another article later that day, kind of detailing what's going on with Scream. And I guess after I read some of these points, I will ask you whether or not they should try to salvage what they have. Or
okay, because this Variety article is news to me. I have not seen anything related to that. At this point, I'd only known that neither of those two female leads are coming back.
Yeah, so it said before Melissa Barrera was fired, plans for the next Scream were being retooled because they said Ortega's exit had required the creative team to make some alterations according to individuals with knowledge, but there were still hopes that the actress might be convinced to come back for a cameo or in like some kind of limited capacity. They said that likely died after Barrera was let go. So even if she was interested in coming back for even a little bit, they think that killed that.
I agree.
And then some are even saying that Ortega was never in the mix for the new film to begin with. I can't imagine that being. I think they wanted to have her if they could have her.
Oh yeah, I don't buy that for a sec.
Ortega and Barrera signed on for 2 Scream movies and fulfilled those obligations with installments 5 and 6. They needed new deals for 7, so that still needs to be worked out as well. Mason Gooding and Jasmine Savoy Brown, who played Chad and Mindy, allegedly have deals for 7, but then this was deleted from the article 20 minutes later. So we don't know if they do. And I kind of thinking that the core 4 is really close in real life, and they probably stand in solidarity with her.
I see.
They said producers want Neve Campbell to return to her role as Sidney Prescott, and they also want Patrick Dempsey, who starred in 2000 Scream 3, to return. If you remember in Scream 5, they mentioned that she was married and had kids, and that's the character from Scream 3. That'd be Patrick Dempsey if he did choose to come back. And they said James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick, the writers of the previous 2 Scream installments, will now work on a fresh draft to present to filmmakers. Some set pieces and twists may be preserved, but the movie will need to find new protagonists and be majorly overhauled. There is no script turned in at this time, and Neve Campbell and Patrick Dempsey have not been offered any deals either. So the movie's kind of like in flux.
Yeah, to say the least.
Do you kill it? Or do you try to make something like, can they fix it?
I don't think they can completely fix it without at least having some sort of scene with Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega, whether that be like a death scene or like using their images to
AI.
No, fuck that. But if you were to like show a newsreel of like their characters being killed off if they don't agree to come back to film, and like have like Sidney Prescott see that and then like sort of be the next target for the 7th movie, I don't know how they'd go about that any other way. If Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega don't agree to have any of their likeness portrayed in the movie for a scene like that, I think it's really hard to have a 7th like that is completely without flaws. I think going back to Sidney as the lead and bringing back Patrick Dempsey, which completely makes sense after his turn in Thanksgiving, and he's already kind of gotten back into the slasher genre a bit. I think that would be a really good segue for him, like career-wise. I would be okay with something like that. And even not focusing on the Carpenter sisters as characters, I'm fine with that too. I do think you need to address their disappearance for this movie, the 7th, to go off without a hitch. I think if you just go pivot right back to Sidney and the gang and don't mention like where your characters from the last 2 movies have gone, that is going to alienate some people, including me. Even if you're aware of the drama behind the scenes, you're going to be there as an audience member in the theater. Like, why isn't this being addressed? Like, why did we follow these characters for 2 movies and end on this cliffhanger, or not cliffhanger, but end on this note and then not get treated to them in the next movie? I think that is slippery slope. Yeah. I think they can do something. I don't think it will be perfect. And I think it would be easier and probably for the best just to let it die. I don't think that's what will happen though. What do you think one way or another about how they'll progress?
So my thought on this, at least originally, this seemed like it was intended to be a trilogy, right? Like I feel like they were going to make 3 movies with the Carpenter sisters if they could have. I mean, I think, of course, I think Jenna Ortega becoming so big was a curveball. I think that it was a genuine curveball, and she just started racking up roles, and they had to work around that, which is why I think I think that's a lot of the reason why Scream 6 got made so fast, because she was, and then they clearly beefed up her part in Scream 6 too. Yes. She had a lot more to do.
That's right.
But I think it'd be really weird to pivot in 7 to not even mention them.
Agreed.
I mean, the way Scream 6 ends, I guess it ends in a way.
How does it end?
Like they all survive, of course,
right?
Because we were all bummed that not one of them died. Yeah. And by the end of the movie, because the whole narrative was like, Tara being like, because she's a younger sister, you gotta let me go, let me grow. I don't want to like deal with. I don't want to live. Yeah. I don't want to live in this trauma anymore. You're still living in it. And then by the end of it, they come to a place as sisters where they seem like they support each other, and they're going to get through whatever happens next together. I mean, there's no one left behind to go after them again. It seems like they have closure for the most part.
Okay.
Of course you can. I mean, Sydney also looked like she had closure at the end of Scream, and then we got Scream 2 and Scream 3 and 4. So like, it always looks like they have some kind of closure, right?
Right.
But if you were to just, I guess, say like that was the end of that, and go into a 7th movie, You could, but I think not mentioning him at all would be really weird.
Agreed. And I think that would be the wrong
Like they
move.
even mentioned Sydney in 6. They were like, hey, she sends her love, but she's not.
Yeah,
Not
but she's sitting this one out. Yeah,
she sent this one out. And they could do something similar. I like your idea of like, I mean, it might be cruel and to kill them off. It might look bad.
Right.
To have them
or maybe
murdered,
not kill them off, but like give a reason for Sydney to know why they're not here. That's just the easiest way to do it, is have them, her see a newsreel about them being killed, and that inspires her to maybe take the fight to Ghostface instead of being wait around and be a victim again. Who knows? I also think like we've stretched this series a bit. Like I think it had enough momentum for a 7th movie.
Well, you were kind of like, because you didn't really love 5 and you thought 6 was like a little better.
6 was a step up from 5. I'd say I didn't like 5, honestly. 6 I enjoyed enough, especially after 5. But I didn't really need a 5th and 6th Scream movie, if you're asking me.
Well, I had a friend. We were talking about this over the weekend. I think felt similarly, that I brought this up, and they were like, "Yeah, I mean, those two were better than they had any right to be, being like a 5th and 6th installment." And then they kind of like paused and you're like, "But do you really need another one? You got 6 of them,
right?"
Like, I mean, like it's cool to have it back. I mean, it showed that this wasn't just a generational horror movie, right? It appealed to like old fans that liked the originals, and it apparently appealed to new fans that discovered it, like that. So like they're right. I mean, we've had enough probably, and it could bow out gracefully and like on a high note, at least, because it made money.
Exactly.
And it got good reviews. The last 2 movies got really good reviews, so there's that.
Not every movie series needs to go to 10, 12, 15 movies. Like a lot of them are projected to be going. So like I think inevitably series have to end somewhere.
So yeah, I think in order for it to come back, the script has to be really good.
It's gonna be bulletproof.
If they don't learn by now, if they want Neve Campbell, they need to pay her a sizable amount of money. I mean, there's room in the budget now. You got rid of you didn't get rid of Jenna Ortega, but the 2 of your leads are gone. Maybe Mason Gooding and Jasmine Savoy Brown are gone too. I don't know. I mean, I thought it was funny that got deleted from the article like 20 minutes later. They don't know if they have deals now. Would it be too old school to just go back and focus on Sydney? Like, do you need new people? I mean, I think that was the appeal of Scream 5 and even this one, that it was like old blood and new blood a little bit.
I agree. Also, you would just have another movie of Sidney Prescott fighting Ghostface and surviving. I mean,
it would have to be marketed as like the last one. Like, I got like this is it. Like have it be like Halloween Ends, but don't like bait and switch and like have it be about something else. Just have it be like
good comparison.
End all be all, like showdown between her and whatever Ghostface. It has to probably have to be a Ghostface that is significant, like someone from her past. It can't just be a rando that is like
that
toying with her,
like Halloween Ends did.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you relate it to someone from like the first 2 movies, whoever. Even the third, the third all of a sudden has fans. So it could be something for the 3rd movie too. But I think making it some random guy that is trying to toy with her would be weird.
We've been there, done that already.
Yeah. I think the only reason it can work if you bring her back is like this is it.
And even then, you need to have a good script behind it and a reason.
And I also think she might be if
I bet she would be too.
If she feels that if she doesn't agree with why they got rid of Melissa Barrera, it may be hard for her to want to even come back on her own. Like, do you even want to be involved in that mess?
Even that aside, does it not come across as like, oh, we'll use you as the backup now that our leads have exited?
Yeah, that also sounds really bad.
As an ego side of things, like, would you really want to be the backup?
We were gonna come to you.
Yeah.
And then Courtney Cox is always down to play, so she might not be hard to convince her to do it. Like, she has so much friends money that she just like, I'll do stuff whenever I feel like it. So like she's the kind of person that's like, if script's kind of good, I'll come back. I think she feels like the franchise gave her a movie career, so like she feels indebted to it.
For sure.
And she said that a few times, so I respect that. But I love horror movies and I love this franchise. I also don't want to see it get like. I agree with my friend that we got very lucky, and that 5th and 6th movie were better than they should have been.
Right.
It did remind me of like why I love those movies to begin with, even though I can acknowledge now, because I've watched 5 since you have been on and you talked about it.
Yeah.
I can acknowledge the flaws in it now, having watched it far and removed from when I saw it when it first came out at that first screening, where it was just so exciting to have like a Scream movie again.
Totally, and I get that.
But once you watch it like with like, you know, not fanboy eyes, you're like, oh yeah, it's got some issues.
Yeah,
for sure. The 6th one was probably a bit more polished, but also had issues. But like it had bigger set pieces and stuff, so it was like flashier. The actors were better and more like comfortable in their roles, so that helps too.
I think it would benefit from like taking a couple of years, some time to like just wait and see what happens. I don't think that this movie needs to come out in 2024 necessarily, or even 2025. Like, let's just wait on this, sit on this and see what happens, develop a good script in the meantime, maybe plan for either outcome, like a Sidney Prescott led Scream movie, or a fate where Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera are able to come back on board in the future. Like, this doesn't necessarily have to be set in stone just because some stuff happened this week, right?
Yeah. So I do think it's funny though that Spyglass, like in 24 hours, just destroyed their franchise.
Yeah, that is actually crazy.
In less than a day, I was like, "You guys, what the hell was your fucking post-strike meeting like? Like, how do we?"
That's a great point.
How do we ride the success? Like, fire our lead actress.
I think this has some implications too about actors and studios' relationship. In terms of like being fired over your opinion, it would be one thing if she had objectively stated some anti-Semitic stuff. I agree with you. I don't see how that was drawn from what she'd said. But like, even if you have a statement or an opinion on the war, whoever you're choosing to support, as long as you're not being like inciting hatred from either side, you should be allowed to voice your opinion on social media. I get if that puts a studio in an uncomfortable place, like we've had that in the past with Gina Carano, who I can't even remember why she was fired.
People were mentioning that in comparison. I thought that, I mean, her comments were a bit more pointed than
Gina Carano's. You mean?
Yeah.
What did she say? What was
I forgot what she said exactly.
I can't remember.
I forgot what she said exactly.
Was it Trump stuff?
Yeah, I think it had to do a lot with that, and it was her stance was a lot more direct.
I see. But like,
than Melissa Barrera's.
That's just a scary line to be drawing, like firing people over voicing their opinion when it's not, whether you agree with it or not. Like, I don't think there's anything objectively like hateful in there. So that's just a scary game to be playing as a studio, like just thinking that that's setting a precedent and maybe like that becoming the norm, I think is a, water we don't want to be treading in this industry.
Yeah.
To an extent.
That's because I'm going to mention it, because we did mention it.
Yeah.
Gina Carano was fired after sharing a TikTok post comparing the current divided political climate in the U.S. to Nazi Germany. Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children, because history is edited. Most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views, she wrote. And then she was quickly...
Right. So you're right. More pointed. More of a ridiculous comparison. But
people were using that as like, you're entitled to have your own opinion.
And I stand by that, even though I think what she said is ridiculous. But...
Yeah, and I don't know if I know certain, like any company has like almost like a morality clause in your contract, like where there's certain things that you can and can't do. Right. Like even some organizations, like, if you get caught for like infidelity, you can be let go for that. Like there's like that's in like your can be in your contract. So I just wonder if there's like fine print and some of these contracts when they sign on for movies.
That's a good point, actually, Gaius. I never even considered that. Like, if your actions are going to poorly reflect the brand, I'm sure that is considered when you're signing a contract.
And I kind of think too, they did not expect her to get the groundswell of support that she got.
That's right. They underestimated the support for her.
I think in the wake of like, the Me Too movement and other movements that are like that, usually there's like one hard stance on that, like this is wrong. I think in the beginning when those things happen, it starts that way where it's like you hear certain stories and it's like, yeah, this is wrong. It's like this cancel culture kind of thing. And then I think eventually people start to question like, all right, that one is not quite like this one. So everything can't be like a blanket like reaction when these things happen. I think a studio like or a production company like Spyglass is probably like we took a stand here and people are going to stand behind us.
Right.
You can do that, but it needs to be clear that what she was stating and what she was insinuating promoted genocide and her being innocent. I don't think it did. I really don't.
I was expecting it to, and I was surprised just because of like this crazy reaction to what she had said before I'd seen her words. I was thinking this clearly had to have been a very pro or like just very cut and dry anti-Semitic thing. And then like going and actually seeing it, I was like, that's what it was. She's fired over this. Like that was very crazy to me.
Yeah. And I actually did kind of like, even though I'll say it again, the fandom got a little crazy, but I did like seeing the support though, because it was
nice people
silly.
Care. Yeah.
And however you might have felt about her acting, because like there is a critic that's actually in the Creative Alliance with me. He's one of the members. He was going off about how he was happy she got let go, and then it got massively misinterpreted as if that should be the reason why she was let go.
I see.
And he was like, no, I'm just saying that she's not a great actress. And they're like, well, that's not what you're saying. You're saying like this, you should be like applauding the reason for her being let go. And he's like, I would stand behind her for having an opinion. It's not that. I just think she's terrible. And I was like, not the right time, but
no, that's
and I don't think she's terrible. Like I liked her in The Heights. I mean, I think in Scream 5, she wasn't quite comfortable yet.
Right. And I have nothing to go, no other performance of hers to judge her from. I've only seen her in Scream 5 and 6. That's all my opinion, because I'm more in line with your colleague there. I don't think necessarily that I even really want her not to be in the next one, like drama aside. Like, I think she has rooted her place. She cemented her place in this series now by being in those, 5 and 6. So whether I like her performance or not, I think is irrelevant. Like her character is central to this story going forward. So I could put up with her, but just objectively looking at her performance, I'm like, it doesn't impress me, but that's not the fate that I wanted for her necessarily either.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, here, folks, Jackson didn't want her to lose her job.
Oh, what's this movie you say that you like her in The Heights?
In The Heights, it's a musical, so it's like
okay. I've heard of it, but I can't remember what it was.
It was I think Lin-Manuel Miranda did that on Broadway before Hamilton. It was like his big one before that.
Yes,
it's good. And she was good in it. She could sing. She's a crazy good voice.
Okay, cool. I know she's been in a lot of Mexican films too. That's where she's from, right?
Yeah, she's in a lot of like telenovela stuff, and she broke out in that market before she get big here. I think she'll be fine. I know her publicist and her party of ways, but I think
really? Because of the tweets
they don't know for sure, but I'm imagining that it might be because of this. But I think that once the tie is clearly on her side, and I think someone will pick her up and she'll be in something else. Like she's not. I don't think she's done at all.
Well, that would be a shame.
Industry. I don't think she's canceled forever. And Jenna Ortega, she'll be fine.
So let me ask you. No, Jenna Ortega is not going anywhere.
She doesn't need Scream.
Let me ask you this: if you are if this happened to Susan Sarandon, who's been around for a while too, I guess this can happen to anybody. But like, let's just say for the sake of comparing it to Melissa Barrera, if you are an up and coming talent or relatively new to the Hollywood industry, are you now second guessing supporting different causes on social media because of this, or are you? Yeah,
definitely.
I think that is a net bad thing for sure, regardless of your stance. Even if you're a Gina Carano making these ridiculous comparisons. And I don't think what she said was necessarily inciting hatred. It was making comparisons and connecting dots that weren't there. Sure. I think that is, I agree with you. I think I would be, and I don't think that's a good thing.
And here's how I feel too. I mean, I mentioned this to you when we were talking about this offline, but I respect anyone that has an opinion and takes a stance on something. I personally would keep my comments to myself.
I agree. Because of stuff like this.
If it was you and I talking like in person, and I trusted you to like, value my opinion, and you trusted me to, vice versa, I would have that conversation. But publicly, where everyone can see it, and, I think there is a lot to lose. You have to be okay with that. I mean,
yeah.
And I don't believe in the whole notion that actors can't have opinions. I know a lot of people don't want them to just they hate when they use like award shows and stuff like that as a platform to
shut up and dribble and whatnot, right?
Whether,
Remember that?
Whether it's like Leonardo DiCaprio talking about global warming or so, there's always someone that uses those platforms to do that.
Which is a commendable thing to use your platform about stuff.
Yeah. So
is that now in jeopardy?
I think that's important, but I think it depends on the topic or the platform.
I suppose it is
clearly this relative. One is it's a very touchy one. I'm glad we were able to touch on it. I where I stand on it, I don't think she should have been let go.
I agree. It was very surprised.
I don't think she should have been let go. But it had in my opinion, it had a chain reaction effect. Even if Jenna Ortega was super busy, I think if everything was all cool and copacetic, she would have found a way to do a little bit.
I agree.
And most actors do. Like she is not the first actor to be filming multiple projects at once.
Definitely not. I'm also surprised that Spyglass wasn't like, okay, let's work around your schedule since you're probably going to be our most bankable star in this movie.
All right.
Like, how long is the Beetlejuice 2 shoot going to be? Like 3-4 months, maybe tops?
It didn't have that many days left. Like, I mean, that was almost done. They were 90%, like 95% done with the movie before the strike happened. So, and then
so it's only the beginning.
So she has so she has to go do Wednesday in April. If they were gonna stay on the schedule they wanted to, because there's all these rumors that they wanted to start shooting in March. That was the original. And if that is what your stance is, then she would have had time to do a little something, or they could have they would have made it work. She would have made it work.
Definitely.
I know they didn't want to lose her because even the Hollywood Reporter, when they wrote about her leaving, they referenced that Deadline article that said the main reason that Scream 6 opened to $44 million was her. They said that she was the bankable star in that, and a lot of its success opening weekend had a lot to do with Jenna Ortega. So
definitely,
they wanted her back.
Certainly, yeah. I bet you they're punching the air right now, wondering what the hell they're gonna do, and I'm sure they're having this conversation themselves too, if they haven't already made up their minds yet about if they're going to bother continuing with the 7th. I think there's money to be made, and when that's the case, they're going to pull stuff out of nowhere and try and make things work, and probably disregard a critical reception if things don't kind of come together, just for the sake of those box office dollars. But who really knows at this point? I think really it's early enough that it's anybody's guess what will happen, but I don't expect they will ditch it right now, but I'm sure we'll be talking about this in the future.
You know who I feel sorry for? Christopher Landon, poor guy. He's the new director for Scream 7.
Oh, goodness.
He did post on Twitter that said like everyone stop yelling, this isn't my fault. And then he's like, I don't like this either. And then he deleted that tweet. I think Spyglass told him to delete it. And but you know who's probably happy are the guys from Radio Silence who they got out after Scream 6. So to work on their, and they're doing their Universal monster movie with Melissa Barrera. She's still doing. I mean,
okay,
so she'll still. I think she already shot it. I think she's done, but so she'll be fine. I think.
Yeah.
It's just a momentary pause, or But man, messy, and I did love people. Internet, sometimes you win when everyone started posting pictures of Ghostface saying like. Ghostface will not be returning for Scream 7 and use Deadline as a source. So I was like, that is pretty hilarious. I know as we're wrapping things up, I did want to mention this too, which was the Cape Fear TV series that they're working on.
Yes.
From Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg and Nick and Tosca.
Okay.
It is a TV version that is the log line says a storm is coming for a pair of married attorneys when an infamous killer from their past gets released after years in prison. A tense contemporary thriller that examines America's obsession with true crime in the 21st century. In case anyone doesn't know, Scorsese directed a 1991 movie, Cape Fear. It was a remake of the 1962 film that was based on the 1957 novel, The Executioners, and starred Gregory Peck and Robert Mitchum. It followed attorney Sam Bowden, played by Peck, whose family is stalked by rapist Max Cady, played by Mitchum, whom he helped send to jail. Robert De Niro, Nick Nolte, Jessica Lange, and Juliette Lewis are in the remake. Made a lot of money, $182.3 million globally on a $35 million budget, and earned Robert De Niro and Juliette Lewis Oscar nominations. I haven't seen it in so long. Well, I remember it was good.
Yeah, I saw it only within the last couple of years and only seen it the one time. And honestly, I remember I looked at it like, oh, this is just a little Martin Scorsese project that he put out right after a big epic like Goodfellas. Like, how good is it going to be? It was a really, really impressive movie. I really, really liked Robert De Niro in that.
He's scary good in it.
Scary dirtbag in that movie. He's great. But I think actually, like, I was hesitant when I saw this news. Like, really, like we're getting a miniseries adaptation like this, because this is something I'm usually hesitant to. I'm very much a champion of original content. But after seeing who's attached and like thinking about it for more than 30 seconds, I've kind of pivoted, and I think this is actually a story. Like, it seems like the direction they're going works really well in this contemporary setting, and the fascination of true crime and stuff. Like whatever you said in that article is very, very true. And for Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg to be collaborating on it together, I think bodes well, and I'm actually excited. But sorry, I think I cut you off right before you were going to say something.
No, good. No, I just think it's a good one and done idea. Like, it's a good limited. It would work like 10 episodes, maybe 8 to 10. I don't know.
I think 6 to 8 is where I'd go. But I think a miniseries is the right idea for sure.
I think it would work really well. I haven't seen the original movie. I would love to see that.
I've only seen that's awesome.
Yeah, I've only seen Scorsese's movie. The movie poster when I was a kid used to scare the hell out of me because it's just like the two, it's like the two eyes in the water, like I was looking.
The shot of him coming up in the water, yeah,
and it's apparently used to scare me as a fucking child. Anyone look up that poster and just think about being that young. It was frightening. But yeah, really good movie, really good Robert De Niro performance too, and Juliette Lewis. I think that's one of her her first movie, and she got nominated for an Oscar for it as well.
Nice.
There's some questionable stuff in it. It's very so
it's a lot.
God, for 1991, a lot. But I think it'd be a really good limited series. And I'm liking that Scorsese and Spielberg are behind it. So
their first ever collab together too, which is crazy to think about. That's awesome.
Yeah. Very, very cool. And this last little thing I'm not going to give much mention on. I want to mention because I know it's a fairly big story. Right. Apparently, there's a Karate Kid multiverse.
What are the odds of that, eh?
So, we already knew that they were doing another Karate Kid movie that's coming out in 2024. Ralph Macchio is going to be in it, as we know, who is in the original 3 movies, and he has been on Cobra Kai for 6 seasons, and I think they're in production now on their final season. But then Curveball,
that show.
And it's a great show too. And then Curveball, Jackie Chan, who was in the 2010 remake, is also going to be in this new Karate Kid movie. So I guess the 2010 remake is now canon with the rest of the Karate Kid franchise.
So do we know, is this going to be related to any of those iterations, or is this completely
I don't know. All they said was like Macchio reprises his role as Daniel LaRusso, the karate champion molded by Pat Morita's Mr. Miyagi, with Chan as Mr. Han, the kung fu master who helped Jaden Smith fend off bullies in Sony's 2010 Karate Kid remake. They are keeping plot details scarce at the moment.
Okay, do they not go with the same names in the 2010 remake? It's not Miyagi and Danny?
No, so there's so it's Mr. Han who is basically the Mr. Miyagi.
But it's not okay. I didn't realize that they didn't go with that name.
So, but still weird. The 2010 movie made a lot of money, but I don't think anyone looks at it as like definitive Karate Kid fodder. It's not really like a the original Karate Kid is amazing. Like, I love the first one. That is
I've never actually seen, which I hate to say. I know, one of those ones I gotta get around to. 80s classic, right?
Dirty son of a bitch. It's like a true underdog movie, man. It's so good. The sequels, part 2's decent, 3 sucks. And then and then the next Karate Kid had Hilary Swank, and that's not good either. What the fuck? Yeah, they replaced with a girl, and it was just fine. But it was like only Mr. Miyagi, Pat Morita came back.
Okay. Who's dead now, right?
Yeah, Pat Morita has since passed away. I always love that. He was nominated for an Oscar for the Karate Kid. An example of like a quiet, understated performance being acknowledged by the Academy, which I think is really, because he is very good in it, but it's not like a showy role at all. It's
no,
very, very subdued. And then of course Cobra Kai, it turned into a big pop cultural phenomenon, first on YouTube TV, and then they got rid of that, and then they put it on Netflix, and it killed on Netflix, and it kind of got the brand back.
I remember when that show was starting up, and like, I can't believe we're at season 7 being in production now. Like, because I never followed it. I think my roommate watched some of it. I don't know how far in he got, but I never paid attention. But I kind of lost track of how far that show was actually in. But it seems like it got good reviews and like held an audience.
People love it. I mean, a good example of like we said with the Scream stuff, like blending the old with the new. Like it pleases like fans of like the old movies, but even the new stories with the kids are actually well written and well done. So yeah, but yeah, I don't know how I feel about this multiverse stuff. That's what it sounds like. It's
that's a little odd.
Or like it's weird that it's canon, but yeah, that movie's coming out December 13th, 2024.
Okay,
yep,
interesting.
So I think that's it.
Yes, holy, we got a lot. We get right on the nose. 2 hours worth of content and no movies discussed, just news. That's awesome. It's nice. We got lots. I guess, have we talked about the plan for Christmas yet on the show? I think we did mention a little bit, but that'll be next week starting.
Yes, we'll be doing Merry Bingemas starting next week. We're going to cover not a lot of Christmas movies, but just some to kind of get you into the holiday spirit. As you know, I think we mentioned that Jackson is not a huge fan of Christmas movies.
Please don't make me watch that. Actually,
you told me this like months ago. Like, you're like, I'm down to do some, but not Love Actually. It's a good movie. I will die on the hill that it's
okay. Die on that hill. That's okay.
It's not bad. Like I used to feel like you have to have like, I don't know, a heart.
Maybe I'm a Grinch, man.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But you're not the only one. I know a lot of people that can't stand it. Like they are like, it's so like phony.
That article I sent you offline was a good read. I don't know if you got around to it.
It was a really good read because it kind of like pokes fun at like,
it came from a place of love, but like poking at the ridiculousness of some of those.
Of it. Yeah. But yeah, I will not make you watch Love Actually.
But yeah, rest assured, we do got some good Christmas classics coming your guys' way for the month of December. Some that I'm, even as a sort of a Grinch, am excited to cover it again, and stuff that we've not covered on this channel before.
No, not at all. And then we have some good anniversary episodes coming to
we do.
close out the year as well. And I'm going to do this tonight, but I'm already looking ahead to like 1999 and what milestones come from that year, because 1999 is arguably, a lot of people think, is the best year for movie making. A lot of people say it's a very highly regarded year. You know, you had stuff like Fight Club, The Matrix, a lot of really important movies came out. So we're gonna have some really good anniversary episodes next year.
Yes, we are.
It's gonna be hard to choose, I think, but we're gonna close out really strong and then open up even stronger. So like, we're very excited for what we have coming your way.
Yeah, absolutely. And next time you guys will hear from us will be in the month of December. It'll officially be Christmas time. So looking forward to what we got coming your guys' way. And I think that pretty much wraps up episode 134 of Back to the Blockbuster. So guys, thanks a lot for joining us on another week in this news exclusive episode. This is great to be back to the bread and butter of the show. And we got lots coming your guys' way for the month of December. And I guess that leaves it here. Thanks for joining us again, guys, on another episode. And remember to tell your friends that like this sort of content where you can find us. You guys can download us anywhere you guys get your podcasts and anywhere you're on social media. You can find us at Back to the Blockbuster. Gaius, another excellent episode talking movies with you, my friend. Until next time, stay safe, take care, and happy holidays, everyone.
Peace.